Hey everyone, welcome to Logan's Mosh Pit. Glad to have you here. Today we're going to do another episode of the Memory Lane series, a place where we take a look back at some interesting articles and interviews from old guitar magazines. This time we're going to look at a special issue of Rolling Stone magazine from May 13th, 1999. Here's the cover. This magazine is hefty. I can barely lift it. Anyway, I'm going to share a list with you guys. Rolling Stone made a list of 150 albums that basically define the 90s, the entire decade of the 90s from 1990 to 1999. This list is comprised of many different genres. You know, they got albums from alternative rock, rock and roll, pop, dance, R&B, hip-hop, country, blues, grunge, pretty much has it all. So we obviously don't have time to go through all 150 albums on this list. I wouldn't make you guys sit through that. That would be torture. So instead, I think what we're going to do is we're just going to go through two genres, alternative rock and rock and roll, and split it up into two videos. This week we'll do the alternative rock albums, and then next Tuesday, for the next episode of the Memory Lane series, we'll move on to their list of influential rock and roll albums from the 90s. That way this video won't be too long. Hopefully we can keep this video under 30 minutes. So why don't we get started with the alternative rock section. If I counted correctly, there should be 46 albums, so let's not waste any time here. This list was put together by David Frick, Rob Sheffield, Ian Powers, and James Hunter. Here we go. Starting off with Sinead O'Connor, I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got. Everything that Lilith Fair later made fashionable governs this album's haunting songs. Introspection, empathy, accessible but inventive music, and most of all, an undeniable voice. Amidst the album's springy new wave melodicism, O'Connor's love of black music is evident, particularly in the gorgeous Prince-penned Nothing Compares to You. But above all, I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got is audacious. O'Connor is singing about God and her own weakness, and contradicting rock rules for tough chicks. Next, Jane's Addiction, Ritual de lo Habitual. You have to put it up with stuff to enjoy a Jane's Addiction album. Noodly jamming, spectacular hyperbole, and a hippie-ish insistence on music's pagan power. But give them a chance and you'll find yourself immersed in the crashing waves of Dave Navarro's guitar and Stephen Perkins' polyrhythmic drums, and hear in Perry Farrell's screeching the call of the good God Pan. Ritual is the album's most likely to convert skeptics. Not only does it have two memorable singles, The Game of Sonic Peekaboo Stop and the bratty anarchist manifesto Been Caught Stealing, but the whole record rides a groove that's as hard and frenetic as the Santa Monica Freeway leading right into the surfer's beloved curl. Hard rock became a weirder place. Next, R.E.M., Out of Time. Made in the wake of the 1988 power chord Mother Green and the No Arena Left Unturned world tour that followed, Out of Time was an exercise in folk pop understatement that, perversely but deservedly, made R.E.M. bigger than ever. For all of its apparent melancholy, the raindrop sound of Peter Buck's mandolin, the bleak sigh of a pedal steel guitar, Out of Time is a grand lift. Elegant sanity with sure-shot songwriting. In Losing My Religion, Low, and Country Feedback, Michael Stipe sings not only about lapsed faith and consuming loss, but of quietly regaining ground and equilibrium. And you get the big grin bounce of Near Wild Heaven and Me and Honey, because redemption is always a good excuse to go dancing. Next, Metallica. The speed metalheads were barking sellout the minute this baby dropped. Metallica had actually bothered to write songs, not just string 10 minutes worth of hot licks into an anti-capital punishment suite. But in slowing the tempos down from dizzy to primal, in choosing meaty presence over mere velocity in the riffing, Metallica made a record of durable, mature violence, not to mention the biggest metal album of the decade. And don't let the orchestration and James Hetfield's thoughtful growl on Nothing Else Matters fool you. Metallica didn't turn into power ballad suckers. They simply created a ballad with power. Next, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic. It took the Chili Peppers 7 years, 4 albums, and a few rough turns of the personal merry-go-round to perfect the savory schizophrenia captured on Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic, the Los Angeles band's 1991 quadruple platinum home run, produced by Rick Rubin with the white headbanger hip-hop snap of James Brown on the Led Zeppelin II tip. Blood Sugar ping-pongs between the precision swagger of Give It Away and Suck My Kiss, and the luminous hurt of singer Anthony Kiedis' top 10 junkie blues Under the Bridge. The alternating slap of extremes perfectly nails not only the giddy highs and drawn-out lows of life in a city built on illusions, but also the Chili Peppers' fight to beat their own worst excesses. An album of honest drama, and you can mosh to it. Next, Nirvana, Nevermind. The album that guaranteed that the 90s would not suck. Every word and note Kurt Cobain wrote for Nevermind now rings with a heavy clang of compound retrospect. His wretched adolescence and inability to find solace in his achievements, his sad, foolish death, the legacy of 1,000 grunge-alikes who have had Cobain's pain well enough but blew it with the music. In fact, Cobain's special genius and that of drummer Dave Grohl and bassist Chris Novoselic, slap and whine of Come As You Are, Lithium and Smells Like Teen Spirit, in barbed humor, and the amp joy classicism of the Sex Pistols, Cheap Trick, and AC/DC. With Nevermind, Cobain pulled the decade's ultimate rock and roll mosh party record out of the dark heart of a generation's discontent, and showed that rock and roll in its messy middle age could still things up gloriously. Next, Matthew Sweet, Girlfriend. If a 21st century archivist ever creates a folkways anthology of guitar pop, this pure and simple masterpiece will surely dominate it. Girlfriend has the same time-erasing quality that Roots' obsessives find in rural balladry, but with its inerrant creator lives on the back roads of plastic pop culture, dreaming of movie stars, raising the ghost of the Beatles, and a big star and countless forgotten lords of the pop underground. His moment is made indelible by the dueling guitars of Richard Lloyd and Robert Quine, Fred Maher's immaculate production, and bright red Heartbreak. Next, My Bloody Valentine, Loveless. Technically, this album isn't instrumental. Belinda Butcher's dreamy croon laughs throughout, gently defining post-punk girlishness. Guitarist and resident genius Kevin Shields also sings sometimes, but the instrumental quality of the vocals, the fact that they matter as tone, not language, helps define Loveless's new paradigm. No more would experimental bands require pompous poets raining about lambs on Broadway. Sonic textures from electrical storm dissonance to feather-soft harmonics could carry meaning and hit the gut. Imparting this true and setting the stage for post-rock, electronics, garbage, and Beck, My Bloody Valentine vanished into the ether they generated. If they never return, Loveless was enough. Next, U2, Archtongue Baby. It was one of the most extreme personality transformations in pop music ever. U2, the Irish bards of cathedral chime guitar and pub stool sermonizing, said goodbye to the 80s and the suffocating tide of their own sincerity by setting up their recordings gear in post-wall Berlin and saying hello to the two eyes, irony and industrial dance music. The music, slower than the Joshua Tree, is corrosive raised city funk laced with mad laughter and creeping paranoia. Yet the album's crackle and empty hallway echo are really a kind of protective armor for the defiant heart in Bono's lyrics. One, ultraviolet, light my way, in the real lesson of arch-tongued babies, postmodern giggles. To appreciate the joys of heaven, sometimes you have to take a little walk through. Next, Pavement, Slanted and Enchanted. Pavement channeled the spirit of Buddy Holly through one of Lou Reed's blown amps, bringing miles of style to an indie rock scene, Star for a Little Romance. Steve Malkmus had the songs to turn this homemade tape of art punk guitar fuzz into a full-blown California fantasy of girls and boys dreaming big on the ridge where summer ends. Slanted and Enchanted is the sound of sweet suburban boys who love the Velvet Underground without ever wondering what the Black Angel's death song meant. And once Malkmus murmured the words sha-la-la without a trace of irony, out-of-tune guitars would never be the same. Next, L7, Bricks Are Heavy. Before there was Riot and Roll, there was L7, Los Angeles distaff revenge on the raging nerd boy stereotype of grunge. But L7 did not use gender as a wedge. They simply proved their monster worth with pungent songwriting and the pulverization tandem guitars of Donita Sparks and Susie Gardner. Bricks Are Heavy is a record of hot, sharp tunes, Everglade, Pretend We're Dead, and Grand Rift Terror, a well-deserved triumph for a band that quickly put its fame to important work by playing a major part in the founding of the reproductive rights organization Rock for Choice. Next up, Los Lobos, Kiko. Compared with the block party exuberance of Los Lobos' original blend of Mexicali blues and LA baroom stomp, Kiko is a record of more ethereal gentility and disembodied narrative, an avant root stab at the magical realism of contemporary Latin American literature. Many of the songs are about hard roads and missed stops, about traveling without arriving, that feeling of helplessness suspended of hopeful wonder under dire straits is beautifully conveyed in the spacious grandeur and wry tricksterism of the arrangements. The brisk night air that seems to blow through Kiko and the lavender moon, the reflective warmth of the campfire picking in Arizona skies, the tonality of two Janes, ravishing and thoughtful, Kiko is a record about a world of dreams, located smack in the middle of East LA. Next, REM, Automatic for the People. Named after a slogan used in Athens, Georgia, soul food restaurant, Automatic for the People is a feast of Southern Gothic pop, combining the gossamer intricacies of the Beach Boys' pet sounds in the sing-along wallop of the Beatles' Abbey Road. The weirdness is warm and playful. Starmy Kitten, a delicious homage to NCC's I'm Not in Love, Man on the Moon, Michael Stipe's buoyant tribute to the late comedian Andy Kaufman, and torch songs such as Stacks with Strings, Jewel Everybody Hurts, glow with hard-won optimism. At the height of alternative rock, former undergrounders REM tried to show that melody could be heavy too, and in the process made one of the finest American pop albums of the decade. Next, Rage Against the Machine, Rage Against the Machine. Anger is a Gift, vocalist Zach De La Rocha proclaims in a venomous whisper in freedom, and Rage Against the Machine spread the wealth around, with an electrifying vengeance, all over the rest of their debut album. Gunning De La Rocha's incantatory rapping with rib-rattling slam, Rage Against the Machine gets hot and nasty about authority with acute lyric detail and stunning force. Rage Against the Machine's mix of radical politics and headbanging kicks was a startling anomaly amid the self-absorbed enema of the year grunge broke. But the album's commercial success was a crucial reformation of rock's potency as a weapon of protest, with Rage Against the Machine's subversion in the great defiant tradition of the Clash and the MC5 was alive and thrilling in the mainstream. Next, the Cranberries. Everybody else is doing it, so why can't we? In a season when most British bands were making dreamy pop and gazing at their shoes, this resourceful group appeared. Four skinny Irish 20-somethings with a resoundingly delicate sound. They had tunes, dreams which circles and floats and even bites. Linger, which does suggest how pleasantness and gravity can exist in the same dream. Next, the Smashing Pumpkins, Siamese Dream. Chief Pumpkin Billy Corgan took the idea of quality control to its obsessive conclusion by playing most of this album's guitar and bass parts himself, a rough deal for guitarist James Iha and bassist Darcy. But Siamese Dreams, co-produced with Butch Vig, fresh from Nirvana's Nevermind, is Corgan's idealized, super hands-on version of the full band's soaring, angst-spiked psychedelia. The Pumpkins' glorious onstage expansions of Silver were proof enough that Corgan couldn't do it all on his own. That the album remains one of alternative rock's most enduring documents is down to Corgan's acute commercial vision, the way he dolled up the confessional indulgence of Today and Disarm in heavy 70s pop ways, and the sheer power of the playing, no matter who did what. Next, PJ Harvey, Rid of Me. As Butthead so eloquently put it, this chick is weird. Polly Jean Harvey strode out of the English countryside to make the air guitar record of the decade, exercising her demons in fierce, funny songs that sometimes even had melodies. On Rid of Me, she summons the thunder of classic 70s rock with help from producer Steve Albini. Harvey wails about that not-so-moist feeling in Dry, proclaims herself king of the world in that made auroral cloudscapes humeable. Singer Dolores O'Riordan, with her top-of-the-throat cawing and tone of Czech senselessness, recalls Sinead O'Connor without the opera. The highs aren't as high as O'Connor's. The album has no Nothing Compares to You. Still the Cranberries, as so many subsequent female activists noted. Artists noticed, suggest how pleasantness and gravity can exist in the same dream. Next, the Smashing Pumpkins' Siamese Dream. Chief Pumpkin Billy Corgan took the idea of quality control to its obsessive conclusion by playing most of this album's guitar and bass parts himself, a rough deal for guitarist James Iha and bassist Darcy. Siamese Dream, co-produced with Butch Vig, fresh from Nirvana's Nevermind, is Corgan's idealized, super hands-on version of the full band's soaring, angst-spiked psychedelia. The Pumpkins' glorious onstage expansions of Silver were proof enough that Corgan couldn't do it all on his own. That the album remains one of alternative rock's most enduring documents is down to Corgan's acute commercial vision, the way he dolled up the confessional indulgence of Today and Disarm in heavy 70s pop ways, and the sheer power of the playing, no matter who did what. Next, PJ Harvey, Rid of Me. As Butthead so eloquently put it, this chick is weird. Polly Jean Harvey strode out of the English countryside to make the air guitar record of the decade, exercising her demons in fierce, funny songs that sometimes even had melodies. On Rid of Me, she summons the thunder of classic 70s rock with help from producer Steve Albini. Harvey wails about that not-so-moist feeling in Dry, proclaims herself king of the world in 50 Feet Queenie, and raises in man size, putting her leather boots on to go stomp the whole planet into submission. Next, Nirvana, In Utero. The basic tracks were recorded in 2 weeks. Nearly all of Kurt Cobain's vocals were whipped down on tape in 7 hours. If In Utero is a record born of great crisis, mostly Cobain's personal war with overwhelming good fortune, it was made with concentrated purpose. Steve Albini's corrosion in Bliss production does not flatter songs of tempered, layered drama such as Penny Royal Tea, Cobain's definitive performance on Unplugged. But Albini's harsh touch was perfect for the extremicism Cobain had already written into the soaked-in lie cannonballs Serve the Servants, Scentless Apprentice, and Very Ape. In the sun-dappled, cell-garnished sadness on All Apologies and Dumb, Cobain was also upfront about his oversized needs and diminished expectations for fulfillment. He ultimately proved incapable of pulling himself out of that funk. Instead, he made fine, furious art from it. Next, Pearl Jam, Versus. The commercial apex of Seattle's Unchained, almost 1 million copies sold in a week, and a rock-solid distillation of Pearl Jam's system spirit right down to the album's title. The band's first record, 10, had the bigger hits, but Versus was the first evidence of Pearl Jam's real aspirations. To a high-minded hybrid of Aerosmith bluster, the folk blues nobility of Neil Young, and the naked self-examination spilling from every page of the Pete Townsend song book. In Daughter, Eddie Vedder distinguishes himself as that rare rock male, able to write convincingly from a woman's perspective. And Vedder made it plain, in the moody simmer of indifference, that despite being ill-suited to celebrity, he is in this game for the long haul. I'll keep taking punches till their will grows tired. Next, Green Day, Dookie. Did we have the time to listen to them whine? Millions of us made time, as Billy Joe Armstrong and his band of Bay Area punk snots won America's heart with fast guitars, bouncy drums, and the fakest English accents ever recorded. Their hits fit together like a stack of Pringles. Basket Case takes off with a case of creeps and a melody that plays tricks on you, while Longview and When I Come Around bent the usual teen spirit with groovy hooks that the Bay City Rollers would have appreciated. Green Day took the booming Cali punk revival to middle-aged American malls, clearing the path for Garageland dudes like Rancid and The Offspring. Cuter than Muppets, funnier than Weird Al, Green Day never grew up, but at least they never cracked up either. Next, Tori Amos, Under the Pink. Tori Amos was one of the decade's weirdest superstars, manhandling her piano the way Jimmy Page manhandled his guitar, and using her high, sweet voice to tap into the most sacred American mysteries. She shattered the stereotype of the saccharine piano girl, turning rock conventions upside down and setting the table for the Lilith Farah audience. Her second full-length album, Under the Pink, is perhaps her strongest collection, inviting you to guess the riddles behind her eccentric melodies and cryptic lyrics. Along with her finest ballads, Under the Pink offers two monster rockers, Cornflake Girl, a sly high school fable, and God, which asks the Supreme Being if he needs a date. Next, Liz Phair, Exile in Guyville. In the immortal words of Mick Jagger, the change has come. Liz Phair took indie rock under her thumb with Exile in Guyville, firing off wisecracks, obscenities, pickup lines, and confessions. She can crack you up and break your heart in the same song, sounding intimate without ever really giving her secrets away. Phair's dry peppermint patty mumble fit into a swirl of watery guitar frazzle and percussion as the melody swam around in your head all summer long. And Run is Phair's greatest hit, but Exile is just one perfect song after another. The acoustic shiver of Glory, the banged out glimmer of Never Said, the wobbly jet girl whoosh of Stanford on Guy. Next, 9 Inch Nails, The Downward Spiral. Trent Reznor has the shock antic instincts of an old Hollywood B-movie producer. He made publicity hay out of the fact that part of this album was recorded in the LA mansion where Sharon Tate was murdered by Charles Manson's gang. He also inspired areas of teenagers to sing along to the unforgettable chorus of Closer, I Wanna You Like an Animal. Yet this is finely wrought gore, a swan dive into Renzor's deep vat of discontent in which he vents his effectively intense, muted moments, I do not want this, as he does in the full-bore, machine-generated terror of the title track. In a genre industrial rock racked with cliché, Reznor demonstrates the many shades of gray that make up abject despair. Next, Soundgarden, Super Unknown. Soundgarden's step up to rock and roll immortality came late in their day, after spells with both Sub Pop and SST Records, and after the band first grabbed the platinum ring with 1991's Bad Motorfinger. But this brutish beauty gave Soundgarden a lock on the Led Zeppelin for the 90s crown. A heavy metal band with punk rock nobility and no time for lemon squeezing Korn, guitarist Kim Thayil, bassist Ben Shepherd, and drummer Matt Cameron hammered Chris Cornell's vocal anguish and Fell on Black Days, Black Hole Sun, and Like Suicide into brilliantly warped power thump sculpture. Next, Hole, Live Through This. Courtney Love gets on people's nerves the way only a real rock star can, and she found her voice on Live Through This, released only days before Kurt Cobain's death. She snarls about the thin line between love and hate, veering from Rage Queen guitar explosions like Violet to moments of sublime folk pop beauty like Softer Softest. I've got a blister from touching everything I see, sings Miss World, and she can also take some consolation in the knowledge that she left her share of blisters on us as well. Next, Beastie Boys. Ill Communication. Ill Communication puts a little polish on the mismatch of Check Your Head. The Beasties freewheel from hardcore punk thrash to jazzy cooldowns for an album with more action than John Woo and mad hits like Rod Carew. The boys loosen up on their instruments, especially in the sub-zero cool of transitions, but it's the linear party starters that make the record. Sure Shot knocks a doofy flute sample out of the park. Get It Together takes a deep train detour with Q-Tip, and Sabotage serves up a slab of red meat metal that not even Sabbath fans. Next up, Jeff Buckley. Blessed with impressive pedigree, he was the son of the 60s folk pop icon Tim Buckley, and a voice of great range and deep character. Jeff Buckley was cursed with a perfectionist streak. Buckley had scrapped one stab at a second album and was gearing up to start over when he drowned in a freak accident in Memphis in May 1997, leaving Grace as the only studio album completed to his satisfaction in his brief lifetime. But it is a rich legacy, the transported blend of serpentine guitars and Buckley's melodramatic singing in Mojo Pen and Grace, the garage band swagger and velvet pathos of Last Goodbye and So Real, the way Buckley turns Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah into delicate personal prayer. A wonderful record, aptly titled, an enormously gifted artist gone too soon. Next up, Oasis. Definitely Maybe. While stateside bands agonized over fame, Oasis announced, "Tonight I'm a rock and roll star." Indeed, the title of this debut album, a blast of guitar muscles, sneering vocals, retro hooks, and arrogant flash, is the only ambient thing about it. You can have it all, but how much do you want? The brothers Gallagher ask in Supersonic, and the answer is a lot. The hits came later, but this is where Oasis established a beachhead on the shores in the war to restore British rock to the throne. Next, Nirvana, MTV Unplugged in New York. Surrounded by lilies, the flowers of death, Kurt Cobain set on a soundstage almost 5 months before his suicide and made his last self-portrait. Television is a house for ghosts, and the acoustic session became a haunting. This morbid set list, ending with Cobain's quietly desperate all apologies and the gothic folktale Where Did You Sleep Last Night, fascinates, but the music's life force contradicts it. Although it eschews one major facet of Nirvana's genius, the band's way with noise, Unplugged reveals the brilliance beneath that roar, the melodic gifts, troubling insight, and deep intelligence of an artist whose loss still hurts. Next, Pearl Jam, Vitology. The rugged, world-weary tones of Vitology were a head check for Pearl Jam, as nice guy Eddie Vedder and his stadium grunge all-stars grappled with their strange new role as the world's biggest rock band, with their profile unexpectedly high. Who can forget Sharon Stone proclaiming, "Forget her body, I want to see Pearl Jam." In Silver, Pearl Jam turned their confusion into the unapologetically anthemic guitar noise of Not For You. Vedder caught his breath with the show-stealing ballads Better Man and Nothing Man, brooding over the fate of cowardly men letting good women slip away and struggling not to turn into one of those cowardly men himself. Next, PJ Harvey, To Bring You My Love. After playing the bride stripped bare on Try and Get Rid of Me, Harvey turned her gender to a more glamorous subversive advantage on To Bring You My Love. Lipstick and form-fitting red satin, the enriched codal nodding of guitars and keyboards, confrontational lust in her singing. But the results are strictly tough love, words and music of flamed world majesty. The distortion on Harvey's voice in the title track sounds like she's singing through fire, and surging obsessive need. Rock and roll was originally a black American euphemism for "To Bring You My Love" is a rock and roll record about getting over, executed with the vivid, harrowing elegance of something very close to autobiography. Next, Radiohead, the Bends. According to the script, Radiohead were supposed to disappear after their fluky 1993 smash Creep, leaving only fond memories of Thom Yorke's Martin. Short after Electroshock Yodel and that Wooka Wooka guitar hook. But the Bends shocked everyone with its widescreen psychedelic glory, raising Radiohead to a very 70s kind of UK art rock godhead. The depressive ballad Fake Plastic Trees Turned Up and Clueless, in which Elisa Silverstone memorably tags the band as compliant rock. In Big Bang dystopian epics like High and Dry, York's choir boy whimper runs laps around Johnny Greenwood's machine head guitar heroics. U2 would have sold to nuns to make this record. Next, Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill. Proof that the gods of rock are unfair. A former TV moppet from the not-so-dirty North hooks up with Willis Phillips' producer and makes an opportunistic angst rock platter that not only sells 13 million copies, it doesn't suck. In fact, it's near flawless, from the "Hello, It's Me" phone range of "You Oughta Know" to the sinisterly "You Learn." And right, Sherlock, ironic isn't ironic. It's just Alanis speaking her piece about the perils of being a girl in a fickle world. Singing like an acoustic guitar, Jagged Little Pill is like a 90s version of Carole King's Tapestry, a woman using her plain soft rock voice to sift through the emotional wreckage of her youth, with enough heart and songcraft to make countless listeners feel the earth move. Next, Bjork, Post. Yeah, Bjork's music is post-rock, post-apocalyptic, flashily futuristic in tone, but it's also pre-tapping emotions, untamed by rational thought. The electronic soundscapes she creates on Post with the help of English dance floor stars like Noah Hooper, Tricky, and Howie B gives her lots of room to roam, and she goes everywhere, from the junk-filled clifftop of the whimsical hyper ballad to the psychic deep forest of Isabel, and songs that link the rhythms of early drum and bass to the vocal lines of Icelandic folk singing with a dash of musical comedy thrown in for a lark. Inventing her own genre, Bjork can sense what she calls an army of me, the many battling voices inside one woman's hyperactive brain. Next, Garbage. In the middle of the grunge hangover of '95, Garbage's debut seemed all wrong. So studio savvy, so calculated in its dream-weaving hooks. Needless to say, it sounds with Scottish lass Shirley Manson flexing a mouthful of lipstick vogue over the sleek guitars of Queer, Foul, and Stupid Girl. In producer-drummer Butch Vig's Hall of Mirrors, Manson becomes a shape-shifting icon of cyborg glam, the Gorgon next door, a La Perla star for a flannel world. All the synths and samples make Garbage a trip, but the sound effect that really gets under your skin is La Shirley's whispering. You can touch me if you want. Scary. Next, Luna, Penthouse. Luna's Dean Warham made his name with the 80s dream pop trio Galaxy 500, but he really found his muse with the scandalously beautiful guitar ballads of Penthouse. Wareham's foxy voice slinks along the languid guitars as he plumbs his foolish heart in the back of a New York cab, going home alone after yet another night of fancy drinks and lucky toast. Wareham purrs some sly one-liners about urban romance. It's no fun reading fortune cookies by yourself, but the music celebrates the pleasures of being too young, too rich, too pretty, and too single, shopping for true love while getting lost in Chinatown. Next, the Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. I fear that I am ordinary, just like everyone, wails Master Billy Corgan on Muzzle from this double-disc epic. Fear can be a great motivator, and Corgan used it to build his Taj Mahal, a sonically dazzling monument to gloom and glamour. Accused of not being punk enough, Corgan showed on Melancholy what punk might be if Steven Spielberg got hold of it. The angry songs distend rage and alienation via beautifully ugly guitar drum attacks, while the wistful ballads flip hate around and turn it into exquisite, unquenchable longing. Take that, hipsters. Ordinary angst can be grand. Next, Sleater Kinney, called the Doctor. It's fine 'cause it's all mine, sings Corbin Tucker in I Wanna Be Your Joey Ramone. And nobody can argue as this righteous college girl lays claim to rock's raw heart. Sleater Kinney made good on the promise of early 90s riot girl movement, linking punk, anarchy, and radical feminism insurrection. On Call the Doctor, Tucker, Carrie Brownstein, and then drummer Laura McFarlane careen around in songs like Hubcap and I'm Not Waiting, moving at warp speed from pretty to terrifying, from earnest observation to nearly incoherent rage. These weren't the first bandmates to focus female fury and desire to the beat of a kick drum, but they could make music as fully arresting as their ideas. And no other rocker has Tucker's voice, a bloody wail that goes soft at the center, a voice that feels like flesh pressing against you. Next, Beck, Odelay. The Woody Guthrie of the Pizza Hut proves he can do it all on Odelay, as the Dust Brothers slip him a funky, cold Medina and set the stage for him to get real gone for a change. Beck shimmies in and out of his musical guises, whether he's strumming his folky guitar in Ramshackle, rocking the Catskills hip-hop style in Where It's At, or blaming it on the bossa nova in Ready Made. Odelay could have come off as a bloodless art project, but Beck gets lost in the jigsaw jazz and the get fresh flow until his playful energy makes everyone else sound tame. That is a good drum break indeed. Next, Sublime. One of the decade's strangest hits, Sublime came out shortly after the death of singer-guitarist Bradley Nowell, but kept spinning off one hit after another with a loose, friendly California pop sound inflected by ska, dub, punk, and folk. These Long Beach Iridium Kings get sloppy but keep the tempo chugging, especially in the head-spinning acoustic skank of What I Got, which somehow fuses with English beat with the Grateful Dead. The success of Sublime was a compliment to Noel's memory and an even bigger compliment to his rhythm section. Next, Fiona Apple, Title. In the aftermath of Atlantis, the airwaves were crawling with troubled innuendos, singing tragic ballads about their haunted eyes. But somehow Fiona Apple stood out as a bad, bad girl. Apple's husky voice and jazzy melodies gave an unexpected weight to her confessions on Tidal, as the 19-year-old New York art waif broods over adolescent malaise in off-kilter, insinuating piano ballads like Never Is a Promise. She also comes up with a knockdown theme song in the enormously hard-rocking Criminal, the anthem of a young woman who's been careless with a delicate man and even more careless with her delicate self. Next, Marilyn Manson, Antichrist Superstar. Suddenly armed with a strange mix of cartoon outrage and actual tunes, not to mention first-class Trent Reznor, productive 5 Florida shock rockers go nationwide in their jockstraps. The record uses atmosphere from goth, disco from Ministry, and 9 Inch Nails, and ideas from that distinguished old sonic philosopher David Bowie. But what really makes it rise beyond the research is Manson himself, an Ohio-raised youngster who manages to craft charm of all things onto his bull. Next, Pulp, Different Class. A Brit pop strumpet with a heart of glass, Pulp's Jarvis Crocker mints through Different Class as a star in the classic Bowie mold. He dressed his flimsy body in an ungodly array of thrift store frippery. He shook what Mama gave him to the band's fruity chamber rock, and he unzipped his breathy croak of a voice to sniff, I've kissed your mother twice, and now I'm working on your dad. Different Class swipes melodic dazzle from the likes of Stereolab and Serge Gainsborough to make Hangover sound romantic in Bar Italia while pinning over Suburban Heartbreak in Underwear, Disco 2000, and the anthem Common People. Jarvis Crocker, International Man of Mystery. Next, Belle and Sebastian, If You're Feeling Sinister. This instrument-switching Scottish outfit represented the ultimate triumph of twee, the British subgenre that applies rock-style hipness and amateurish fervor to unrock interests such as coffee house folks, French 1960s pop, and the works of Burt Bacharach. Casually led by real-life choirboy and Smith's admirer Stuart Murdoch, Belle and Sebastian attach cello, trumpet, and strings to a skiffle beat and melodies devised after hours of lonely listening to vintage top 40 radios. Not since Nick Drake had so quiet a band spoken so loudly. Next, Yo La Tengo, I Can Hear the Heart Beating as One. If this is the age of irony, nobody told Yo La Tengo. They just keep making one floridity romantic guitar record after another, doing for marriage what the Velvet Underground did for. On this album, it's all good in their little corner of the world. Guitarist Ira Kaplan sails away on perfect guitar drones like we're an American band. Drummer Georgia Hubley croons the feedback lullaby Shadows, and bassist James McNew warbles the acoustic lament Stockholm Syndrome. Yo La Tengo also finds time for a couple of space disco novelties, a noisy Beach Boys cover, and a few silly love songs, adding up to the kickiest album of their stellar career. Finally, Radiohead, OK Computer. Progress is up. But don't let the machines or their masters grind you down. That is the simple message encoded in the art rock razzle-dazzle of OK Computer. Hailed as the dark side of the moon for the information age, Computer is too brittle in its time-signature twist and hairpin guitar turns, too claustrophobic in mood to qualify as space rock. Instead, Radiohead shattered the soul-sucking echo of Isolation and enforced routine with the violent mood swings of Paranoid Android and Tom York's arching vocal anguish in the gaunt, yearning ballads Let Down and Lucky. Somehow, OK Computer went platinum a year after its release, a welcome testament that smart still sells. So that's Rolling Stone's list of the most influential alternative rock albums of the 90s. You might be wondering, what's my favorite alternative rock album from that list? Well, I don't have one. Sorry. I haven't heard probably half of those albums. Plus, there's way too many albums to choose from. 46, I think. Like I said, I wouldn't feel confident choosing one. But if you have a favorite, please let me know down in the comments. I'd be interested to hear that. So that does it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate the support. I'll see you next time. Until then, rock on.